Hello, everyone, man, and welcome to another edition of Equity and Energy. Tonight's broadcast, you're going to hear a little sound in the back of me, man. That's just the sound of New Orleans with one of our startup. But I am super happy to have Mr. Latane E. Brackett with me the third with me today, Innovation Program Manager, Division of Research from Jackson State University. Latane, man, how you doing?
I'm doing well. Great to be here, Leroy.
Man, it's so good to have you. This is not our first time visiting, so it's kind of cool. Just a little bit about our background, our story, man. When I first started in this, probably about May of 2023, April of 2023, I started reaching out to the folks who are already doing the work, man, because I really wanted to kind of learn as much as I can and connect with as many people as I could. And Latane was one of the first people I hooked up with and also returned my calls, set up a meeting, and say, hey, man, where are you at in this process? And then from there, just completely opened my mind. I think just spent that first phone call with you, man, just like, and what else, and what else, and what else? And so, and since that time, me and him had an opportunity to be friends. He's came down, had a chance to hang out with me at the Aaron Rose. And just last Tuesday, he attended our ecosystem meetup for our SSBCI discussion. So, man, so very happy to have you, Latane, man. We appreciate you.
Thank you, sir. It's been a pleasure knowing you.
Oh, man. It's been a pleasure knowing you. So tell us a little bit about where you grew up, man. Give us some little insight about you.
Well, I grew up in Norfolk, Virginia. I'll tell the story from real short. My grandmom had 15 children, and she had 11 daughters and 4 sons. My mom was the second oldest of those daughters. Second oldest of all of them. Mm-hmm. And then my mom had 8 kids, and she had 5 boys and 3 girls. I'm the second oldest of the 8. We lived in Norfolk, Virginia. I remember my formative years, and certainly living in the Brambleton area. I lived literally a block away from Norfolk State University.
Okay. Didn't Michael Vick just take over Norfolk State the football?
Yes, he did. Yes,
come on, man. All right. Like nothing. I think that it's going to be really interesting, man. I think that everybody's kind of following in that prime footstep of thinking that they can make a difference. And I think that I love the fact that everybody's going back to take a shot at making a difference from that coaching perspective, having a chance to spend some time with those young men.
Well, I think that's great, but I think the other piece of it is I think about Norfolk State when I went there, and Norfolk State now it looks a totally different place. It's been transformed.
Okay.
And I think a lot of that has to do with a lot of the innovation and the entrepreneurship, and there's just a great opportunity, explosion of all this technology.
Okay. So growing up in that space, man, like, so tell me about some of your mentors around that area and around that time.
Well, I would tell you that, first of all, I had a gentleman across the street. I can't remember his last name, but his first name was George. And I remember he was sitting across the street and was always challenging my brothers in playing chess.
Okay.
So, so that was a moment. I think, of course, back then, some of your mentors were church leaders, like pastors and so forth. Right on the end of the corner, was Grace Episcopal Church, and Father Green, who his wife was my my preschool teacher. And I remember being taught, how to count, how to recite poems, all those kind of things. And then he eventually became the mayor of the city much later. But I think you have the mentors, the school teachers. We had school teachers that really cared about your development. I remember Miss Burrows, the third grade teacher, right? She was over the patrols, the safety patrols, and she had that leather strap in that bottom drawer, because back then, guess what? You act up, you go behind the cubby hole. And wear your behind out. And when you got home, guess what? You got another one from your mother.
Yeah.
Because they reinforced the discipline.
Yeah. And then the community wasn't afraid to be active with the kids as well. Like that, I think back then when you said it takes a village, that was absolutely true. The reason why everybody had the authority to get to that backside was because I think we were a reflection on everybody that was in our community, not just our family, but all the people who, were around us or contributed to our growing up. So,
well, that was a part of the upbringing too, around the values and how it was yes, sir. No, sir. Yes, ma'am. No, ma'am. I joke and I tell people that, for many years, I didn't know what my mother's name was, because to me, she was mama, I wasn't going around calling her by her first name. I don't do that today. Her first name is Linda, but I don't call my mother that. I've never had a conversation where I started out that way.
That's wild, man. And I remember just even thinking about calling your mom by her first name was so taboo, bro. Like, you wouldn't even think about it.
Yeah, just totally disrespectful. Another thing is, I think about the folks that we would call the rough individuals in the neighborhood. Even when they got to some older folks' homes, would take off their hats and their caps. They would stop cursing. They would stop drinking or hide the bottle or whatever. Get down the street. They may pick it back up, but there was a inherent respect for your elders in the community, not just your family, but all other folks in the community.
So to growing up with that experience, I think with both Gen X, man, like how has that kind of shaped your approach to leadership and collaboration, understanding the background that you come from?
Well, I think that is understanding. Let me say it this way. I worked somewhere one time, and there was a gentleman there that he believed that you were born a leader. Either you were born a leader or you weren't a leader. And I remember I talked to him one time that we had a gentleman who was a mechanic. It was a union facility. And I said, do you realize that this gentleman is also the superintendent of the city that he lives in and has been in that role for 13 years? Now, what's my point? My point is that we look at people in the capacity that they're in at the moment, and we judge, and we think we know something about them. But what I've learned is that, one, I've never met a stranger, so that you engage people. I was talking about just today, or talking with a couple of innovators about Uber drivers. you'd be surprised if you have a conversation with Uber drivers, what they actually do outside of driving that Uber or how they're leveraging that. I just met a lady, actually, on the way to your event. I got in the car with a lady, she had an accent, and I asked her, I said, where are you from? She said she's from Paris. I didn't expect her to say that.
Okay.
But she's from Paris, and she said she was a travel nurse. So she came to the United States, was in New Orleans. She was working in that capacity. And she says, oh, I only do the Ubering because the car belongs to Uber. So I don't have to get a car because I use this car and I only do this part-time and I make $1,500 a week doing this. And it also enables me to see the city. So to your point, to me, it's about treating everyone well, everyone, right? No respect to persons in that regard. And then my two principles, one is building relational equity. I think that's what happened with us. We met, we genuinely invested into the relationship, and it wasn't anything for us out of it, right? You weren't trying to get something for me. I wasn't trying to get. We were giving. We both gave. It reminds me of that old movie about paying it forward. I think folks. I asked somebody the other night about the movie. They never seen it. I said you need to. You need to pull some of those old treasures out in terms of how you pay for it, because in this work, that's what we do.
So, man, and I think one of the principles definitely the collaboration part, understanding that it's going to be hard to do it by yourself. I think that's that's one of the big things I learned. It's definitely that. But also, it's kind of like you said, man, like together we're stronger. Right. Like I think after you and I had our conversation, it became very important because you kind of set the bars, and it's like became very important for me to study and learn. And so I think in that space too, that gave us an opportunity to kind of glean off each other, man. I really appreciate that time. So,
and we're still doing that.
And we're still doing it. Yeah. Now we're trying to really save the world, right? So how did you get into electronics engineering?
Well, I had an opportunity. Well, first of all, let me tell the truth. I didn't want to go to Norfolk State. I wanted to go to UVA because UVA was University of Virginia. But I didn't have any UVA money. And then I heard about a program, the Zorts National Institute for the Minorities and Applied Sciences. They renamed it now as the Zorts National Institute for Math for Minorities is math and science, but again, it was minorities in the sciences. And what's interesting is it was a full ride, right? I didn't have to pay anything. Lived on campus, even though literally, I told you, I lived a block away. I had one roommate. I had I think it was a leading edge monochrome computer in my room. We had two because I had one and my roommate had one. But that was more than everybody else had, right? Didn't have to go to the lab at the computer lab because we could do it from our room through the modem and all that. And so there were different majors offered in STEM, and I selected electronics engineering mainly because that's one of the applied sciences is engineering, and didn't know how I was going to necessarily use it. But I will say one of the things that probably had me thinking that way because I was always a reader. Love reading comic books. If you think about all of the superhero origins, they all have something to do with science, some kind of technology. A radioactive spider for Spider-Man. Superman comes to the planet. He wasn't flying. He was in a spaceship, right? His first flight was not by his own power. And so that got me, I applied, got in the program, and was in the first cohort, 20 of us. And changed my whole life, the trajectory of my whole life. Okay.
So this is early STEM then, really?
Absolutely. It was a STEM program. We were all either chemistry, biology. It was all science, right?
Okay.
And again, changed my whole life. I think about my roommate. There was a couple of us. One guy we called Stein, and because he looked like he had a Jerry curl, looked like Einstein. And he's a dentist today, has his own dental practice. There was Jesse. Jesse has his own company doing, computers and programming and things of that nature. Roy is a doctor. and a urologist, and you know, and that was just 4 people that I just named in the first class. And again, there've been like 38 years of this program today. And so I've been around people that looked like me, that were intelligent, that were engaged, and that were making things happen. And also being in a cohort early, right? Yeah. So having that whole idea of us working together and collaborating together, that started a long time ago. That's not something new to me.
I like this, man. So from an early STEM cohort, this kind of takes you through your undergraduate years, and then you decide to get the MBA?
I did my undergraduate years there. Then I left after the 4 years, went to General Mills as a corporate engineer in Minneapolis. So I went from Norfolk, Virginia to Minneapolis.
Okay.
And then I was there, went to Abbott Laboratories and worked in medical nutritionals and making infant formula and powdered agglomerated powder, which is the powdered infant formula that you use as you put the water back into. High-speed packaging, bottling, canning, sterilization processes. Then I left there. I went to Frito-Lay. When I got to Frito-Lay, I started out in controls engineering, and then I transitioned to a role at the Technology Process Center where I was working a third shift supervisor job. But we did test market production, right? So we make, instead of having one of the big lines back then that ran like 7,000 pounds of potato chips an hour, we would run like 400 pounds. Because if they were going to do something with the green Cheeto, they just make a little bit of it and go out and test it. If it worked, then they put it on the big line and make more of it. And during that time is when I went back to get my MBA from Texas A&M Commerce. And so I actually was working full time as a technical manager on the leadership team and going to school at night. So it was like a big triangle that I was driving. And I did that and was successful. And I believe in completing I think in 2003, I completed my MBA.
So this is one of those questions that was not one of the ones I sent you, man. I want to kind of talk about how does adaptability, man, help you in regards to evolving in what you're doing with the energy and all the programs that you're doing with Jackson State University?
It is central to everything. And here's the other thing too, because I used to tell people when people ask me, well, how did you do X, Y, and Z and get here? And I would say, oh, it was circuitous, right? I went to this, not the normal route. I went around the block, came around, this and that. But now at 57, when I look back at my life and my experiences, I realized that all the experiences that I had have led up to this moment. For example, when I was in manufacturing operations supply chain, got up to being VP of ops and being, one time I had 12 manufacturing facilities. Another time I had about almost, I say 2,700, almost 3,000 people reporting to my organization. But I realized I've been developing talent the entire time. Even when I just had temporary employees that came in, we had to teach how to be able to run equipment on the line, to being over a maintenance department, or being over a business unit, or being over a manufacturing facility, or being over several manufacturing units, or a division, right? But here's the thing. When I think about the work I'm doing now, working with innovators, I'm still helping, startup co-founders. I'm still training. I'm still coaching. The difference is now I'm more often using the Socratic method, where I'm asking questions versus telling. And, which is interesting, because when I had all of that authority over people, you could just say, thou will do X, Y, and Z. Now, I didn't do it that way, but you could, because you had the authority to do it. I would always engage people and treat them as a full member of the team, which meant that if I had things I needed to do, I had to be accountable as well. Because I do believe in accountability culture, right? And how do you know if you have one, right? If something happens bad and the first thing you're doing is trying to figure out who did it, then you have a blame culture. If something happens bad, for example, if it started leaking through the ceiling right now, and you start trying to figure out who did it versus looking for a bucket to keep the water from getting on the computer, then you're in the blame culture. But if you go in and try to capture the water, turn the valve off, we may still have to have that conversation on how this happened. Right. But that's really about putting corrective actions in place so that it doesn't happen again.
So, man, we got the So obviously the MBA at that particular point in time was to kind of strengthen your position when using that supply chain network, right?
That was my thought, and it was funny because I remember I worked for a gentleman, Dave Half. He was VP at Frito-Lay at the time, and when I completed my MBA, I said, "Dave, am I gonna get some more money?" He says, "No." I said, "Why not?" He says, "Because you're no smarter to me."
Right.
Because in his mind, you've been here this whole time. You've been doing that, but guess what?
Right.
You've been working here, and they did spend some money toward my MBA as well. He's like, "So you're just as smart as you was beforehand." But to me, I looked at it as I thought I needed some more education. I needed to honestly, to be honest, when I did my MBA, I realized that a lot of things that I was doing in my current role were even beyond what I was being taught.
So have you gotten to the space now, man? So is it for you? Is it? I mean, obviously, you have a background in manufacturing. Well, I say manufacturing and supply. Can I say manufacturing and supply chain? Just supply chain.
Yes, supply chain operation. Yes.
Okay. And then we also have the engineering STEM type concept, and now we have the MBA. So now we're pushing it all together, and now we're at the Jackson State Innovation Program Manager. So I wanted to kind of lay that background out for you to lay out, first of all, the adaptability, all the different things that you had to go through, and how you evolve, and then also all the skill sets that you kind of pulled together as you came along. Because I was standing there by you when we was talking to a couple of our folks here in our ecosystem, and I want to kind of just like, hey man, so tell me the things that you do now, and we want to start talking about how those things you're using those things to kind of help founders, innovators in the energy space.
One of the things in terms of that adaptability thing, I think one of the things that I do is I listen. Right? We talk about active listening. We talk about listening with empathy. But when you do as much teaching customers, well, the difference between teaching customer discovery, right, and actually being a practitioner of customer discovery. And so what I've learned, I don't know if I've always had this or it doesn't seem to me that I have. Seemed like I've developed this as a skill set of being able to talk to folks and retain a lot of information. And so if I'm talking to one innovator, and then I go to another meeting or a conference or whatever, and then somebody's talking about something that's tangential to that or that they directly need, being able to say, "Oh yeah, I remember talking to Leroy about that. Let me get back with Leroy and connect with this person." And I realized, I guess part of that is too, is I found out that I am a super connector.
Yeah.
Right. And not a name dropper, right?
Yeah.
But a connector. And which goes back to that fundamental thing around the building relational equity, because it doesn't work if you don't have that.
Yeah.
Right. Because, you and I've done this where, we talk about something, you tell me what you're trying to do, and I can say, okay, here's 5, 6, 7, 8 people that you can engage and tell them that Latane told you.
Yeah.
And then they get with you. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
They follow up. But that's because you built equity with that individual. Right. And then you build equity with me, so that I'm willing to share that with you. And then they follow up with you, you follow up with them. And then I'm really out of it, right? You may circle back around, but to me, it's really about helping people to achieve their full potential. And first I have to listen to understand what is he trying to achieve. When I do training, I often interject something I learned in grade school, Y equals F of X. You may have heard me say it the other night. Where Y is the dependent variable and X is the independent variable, right? And so that the Y is a function of X. So in this space, what does that mean? That means that your customer has a problem that exists whether they meet you or not. And if you're going to provide a solution to them, you must know what the problem is, which means I don't come trying to sell anything to you. I come listening to find out what's your process, what's your work to be done. What issues are you having? The pains, we call those pains. What gains do you want to have? And then from that, now I can start to frame a potential benefit or solution to that problem or a value proposition.
And so you're doing this with ICOR, Because I know you just posted you just finished training your iCore, finish your energy training on iCore, right?
Yeah, I do this with I do this with the Department of Energy
Yes.
iCore program, which is a national program, with the National Science Foundation, which is national as well, and also with the NIH, or the National Institutes of Health. They have a program called the Entrepreneurship Boot Camp. I'm also a lead instructor for a program in Boston, which is called Access, BGS Access. BGS stands for Brown in the Green Space. That's focused on individuals that like electricians, technicians, drivers, folks that are in the clean energy sector but don't own anything, and it's really get them thinking about how they might own something. All the way up to folks that have PhDs, MDs. Some of them have 2 PhDs. Okay, but I also do that in real life.
Yes.
You know, you saw me. You know, I try to be very authentic, right? You've met me a couple of times. We talked on the phone. We've talked on Zoom. We met in that restaurant. We met. I'm always the same. And the reason why that is, it's easier for me.
Yes.
I don't have to be, I don't have to, oh, how was I with Leroy last time?
Yeah.
And it also comes from a place of, how can I learn what it is that you need so I can help you? Again, I do that freely. I'm not, I may connect you with somebody on the spot and I'm going about my business, right? But I think it's really about helping individuals to see past the obstacles. We talked a little bit offline and I credited former manager Steve Sterling who had this concept. Most people ask the question, can we do X, Y, and Z? For example, let me give you a little quick scenario. Okay, you and I, kids, we're playing in the yard. We got the ball. We kick the ball. It goes over the fence. There's a tall fence, got barbed wire at the top. There's a mean dog over there, and the guy over there that owns the house is really mean, right? And I ask you, say, Leroy, can we get that ball? You're gonna say no, because the fence, the barbed wire, the dog, and the man over there.
I'm gonna listen.
I asked Leroy, how might we get the ball? Then you're gonna look at that same fence and you say, well, there's a fence over there, so we need a ladder. You're gonna say, well, there's a barbed wire at the top. My grandma is asleep. We're gonna get her quilt and lay it over that. That way we won't get cut up. Yeah. Now, what we're gonna do about the dog, Leroy? Because you're gonna say, well, let's go get this steak and throw that over there, or a hot dog, and he go eat that so we can get in there. We're gonna get in and get out. Yeah. We're gonna be real quiet so we don't wake anybody up. And guess what? Now we have gotten a solution to the problem, versus being so focused on why I can't get it done. Because most people, and most of us, we gravitate to the no.
Yeah.
Right. But everybody starts with no. Right. Until you do something to get away from the no. If I don't ask you, and well, Leroy's gonna say no. Well, guess what? He doesn't have to say no, because I said no to myself.
Yeah. They say every shot you don't take, you miss.
You missed it for sure. And guess what? If you say I can't do it, you are right. And if you say you can do it, you are most likely right as well.
You're absolutely right.
Because if you say you can't, you won't.
So tell me this, man. So how are you able to use obviously there's a lot of knowledge that there's the iCore stuff and Access. How are you using those two to kind of support and help underserved founders? Well, and I know you help founders across the board. Let me say that first. Like, I know you help founders across the board, but for our underserved population, how are you using those programs to help them?
Well, we're using those programs to, one, help them to de-risk their business models, right? Or some of them don't necessarily have a business, but just have an idea for a business, and it gives you a construct by which you can kind of walk your way through it, right? First, about understanding who is my customer, what problem do they have, what benefit can I provide to them? And then what relationship am I going to have with them? What channels that, basically, how am I going to sell them something? You might say, oh, I'm going to sell it online on Amazon. But the question is, does your customer even buy anything on Amazon? Because if they don't, you're not selling anything to them on Amazon. Right. A lot of people use it. I used it last night to send my grandbabies my 2 grandsons, some fruit snacks. But guess what? Not everybody uses it. So you got to know that. So some of those, that's part of it. But I think the other thing of it is, too, the other question around how do I help like folks at HBCUs and MSIs and HSIs, historically Black colleges and university, thinking about minority serving institutions, Hispanic serving institutions, is first of all is making them aware that this ecosystem, this inclusive innovation ecosystem even exists. We talked a little bit earlier. I believe that the only lack that actually exists is the lack of awareness.
Yes.
There's never been a lack of resources, right?
Right.
It's just the question is, can you get the resource? I'm a supply chain person, right? Can you network optimize the system so that the resources get to the people that need it? Because when I talk to folks that are running these large programs or funders or founders, what I find is that either folks have money that they can't get to the people because they can't identify where they are through the efforts that they have already, or you have individuals that are looking for resources and they're not aware of them.
Yeah. So, and I think part of what I'm learning too, man, is that there are people who understand the resources, understand where they are. Sometimes that understanding is a little bit here, and being able to create that messaging to where it makes sense to the community. I think that the people who have the resources sometimes struggle with getting that. I mean, it took me a few months to get the message of what I was actually trying to do together, so that folks could, can understand it. And it's still now we're still educating. We really are still educating folks on what we're doing. I think pretty much a lot of the time, like in the circles that we're in are small, they kind of know. But when you start reaching out bigger, then it's like I have no clue. And I think that holds true for our small businesses too. And I'm not going to jump on that spot because we're going to stay with our energy concept and our founders. But I think the same problems and challenges and things that we saw, lack of awareness in this space, is probably a lot of what's going on with the small businesses.
Well, I agree, but I one of the things that I learned when I managed teams, right, and then ultimately very large teams like 12 manufacturing facilities, is that when you're trying to change the culture, one of the things I learned is that the first thing you have to do is change the language.
Yeah.
Right. And so if you have a mediocre language, then you're not going to have a world-class company. Impossible. Right. So why do I say that? Because one of the things that we teach even in a lot of the innovation training in Lean Launchpad is that you need to be able to speak in the language of the customer. And so a lot of times the reason why we have a hard time trying to tell folks what we're doing, because we haven't asked them what they need. Right. So once I know what you need and I know your vernacular that you're using to express that, then I can change my language, or the way I would say it. So I'm talking to your need in a language that you understand. Yesterday I did a kickoff program with Meharry Medical College, I-Corps program, and I asked, put in the chat, what is the benefit of your solution, right? But I asked them to do it in such a way that a third grade student would understand it, right? Because again, we have a language barrier. One of the things, a lot of the I-Corps programs, for example, all that training, NSF I-Corps, it is absolutely free, right? U.S. citizens, legal permanent residents, is free. But nowhere were we saying it was free. And so by the time you tell me, well, you're going to have seasoned serial entrepreneurs, you're going to have PhD faculty teaching you about, how to de-risk your business. In my mind, in the neighborhood I'm from, I'm thinking I can't afford it. You never said anything to me about costs, but I'm adding it up in my mind that, man, that must be really expensive to have these caliber of people doing the training. And so at a certain point, when I was in the role, I was at the National Gym Consortium and as the principal manager of innovation programming. And I'm like, listen, why don't we just say that it's free? It is free. Why don't we just say that? Right? Because what happens is a lot of people because you don't know enough about it, you're trying to assess it in your mind. And in your mind, this must be very expensive. So you count yourself out. No one has to throw you out because you never go into the room.
It looked like it's too big for us.
Oh yeah, I mean, but what you don't realize is everybody who's in the room is enjoying free training, right? And even after the pandemic, a lot of the training is also virtual. So it's not even location dependent. It used to be, but it's not. So, you know, you can be on a cruise ship and get online and be trained in between going to the, you know, to the swimming pool or going to the buffet. Go ahead.
I guess, well, I was going to get into the thing. Like, you sent me quite a few emails over the course of the year. Tell us about all the type of programs. Like you said, they're free. Tell us about the programs that you're actually alluding to, like things that founders can get into. And what we'll do is we'll make sure we have access. We'll create a resource link or something. And as long as we're connected, we'll be able to share this information back with our ecosystem. But tell us about some of the things that are actually available to founders.
Okay, I'll give you a short list. For example, the NSF I-Core, right? All the programs that they do are absolutely free. There are 13 hubs, right, across the U.S. Each of the hubs was awarded $15 million over a period of 5 years. And they're all tied to universities. So no matter where you live, there is a hub that you can tap into. First, and you actually can tap into any one of them you want to. But there's usually universities right around you. For example, Jackson State University in Mississippi. Jackson, Mississippi is a part of the Mid-South I-Core hub, right? But we have other partners. You have Vanderbilt, you have Tennessee State University, you have Meharry Medical College, you have University of Kentucky, you have University of Virginia, you have George Mason University. All those universities are part of that hub, and I probably missed some. But all the training that they provide is absolutely free, right? You can go online right now and look it up and participate, or you can reach out to me, and I'll have to connect you to the different ones. And so 13 hubs doing this kind of training. So imagine $15 million times 13 hubs. That's how much investment into all this free training just with that. Then you have what you call the lab embedded entrepreneurship programs. You have, for example, Innovation Crossroads, which is out of Oak Ridge Laboratories, right? That's in Tennessee. So you got that one there. You got Chain Reaction Innovations, which is out of Argonne National Laboratories, which incidentally I'm on the board for that. Then there is Westgate, which is out of the National Renewable Energy Labs. And then there's Impel, which is out of Berkeley Launch Laboratories. So those programs you can get like $370,000, I believe, in terms of resources and also access to the lab equipment. Now you may have to have something that's certain very scientific based, but again, those are free resources. Back at the NSF, there's a what we call a regional level, right? Regional program. And then there's a national program. The national program is designed for individuals that have, let's say you went to a university, you developed some technology and some IP. And so it's university-based technology. You can apply for a grant for $50,000, right? To go and do 100 interviews. So essentially getting paid $500 per interview to go out and talk to somebody about your own innovation, something you're trying to do anyway. Okay. It costs nothing to be in the cohort, but the commitment of your time. The only thing, when I say these are free, the only thing you're required to do in those programs I just talked about is to be committed and spend your time to really help de-risk your business. And in addition to that, you get office hours, right? You get to talk to folks that help you and walk you through it, right? Then there's SBIR, Small Business Innovation Research, or America Seed Fund. I think it was SBIR.gov. You can get up to $2 million to launch your business, right? And never pay $1 back. 3 phases, and there are like 12 agencies that have SBIR programs. There's also STTR, which is Small Business Technology Transfer Research grants. Yes. Right? There's NSF has another program called PFI, which is Partnership for Innovation. That's another, I think it's I want to say it's $1 million. I can't remember off the top of my head how much money you get for that. Tremendous amount of opportunity. That's just a little smidget, right? And I'll be honest with you, I'm not an expert on every single program, but I know that there are hundreds of programs. It's not just a few, because there's all kind of foundations that have a program. There's state level programs. There's community programs. There's programs that you can participate in, and you might get a micro grant that may be $3,000. You might get one that's $10,000. Again, you paid nothing to get in the program. You just signed up for it. You were committed. You got selected, and you did the work, and you end up getting something that may help you with the prototype development. Think about all the pitch competitions that are happening. Now everybody's looking at Shark Tank. There are pitch competitions all around the United States in your community, where I'm seeing individuals like, say, students perhaps that may win $3,500 for first prize, $2,500 for second prize, and $1,500. And some of those don't even have like 8 people in the competition. So you got pretty good chance of winning some money if you've done some work and you've done some customer discovery. Again, that's just a small fraction of what's available. And what you'll find is that most of these individuals are looking for you.
Yes.
Right. You got to get into spaces. Here's the problem that we have today. We don't talk to enough to each other. We go places, we walk right by somebody. You go to a conference, there's 2,000 people there. You saw everything, all the presentations, but you didn't talk to anybody. You don't know, the person next to you may even know about a program that they have already been a part of that you qualify for, but you never even talked to them, never even said good morning.
Yeah. Now, man, and a lot of us, we gotta get out of our space, because my background is sales. Like, I love the fact that most of this is about meeting people. I was intimidated when I thought it was just science and the technical side. Like, it was very intimidating. When I realized it was about meeting people, learning what they do, piece by piece, just kind of put the information together, and then you're gonna really have an idea. It's kind of like you said earlier. If I know what everybody needs, then the more I get a chance to share and get people connected, but then that also gives me the opportunity to learn while I'm in that process. Now, one of the things that I think you hit up on when you was laying out the ICOR programs, I think probably some of the NSF stuff, it sounded like there are programs designed to help you de-risk. There are programs that actually it may even give you money to spend the time de-risking your project, right? So we have a group of, say, 30 founders. We take our top 5, and maybe some of those other founders, they may need additional help. I can make those resources available to our ones who may not necessarily make our top 5, and then they can kind of refine their projects and keep working on their projects. Is that something that can happen like that?
Absolutely. I'm glad you said that, because I kind of coin it this way. There are funnels, pipelines, and pathways.
Right.
And I think that once we get folks into the inclusive innovation ecosystem, we should really be focused on how do we keep them in this ecosystem.
Yes.
Not keep them in my program, right?
Yes.
Or in my backyard, but how am I working with Leroy, for example? If you got folks that need some additional help, they need to go to ICOR.
Yeah.
Right. There's folks that, for example, there's a NIH entrepreneurship boot camp. Those individuals, they go through that training. Most of them are masters. Most of them are PhDs and MDs, some masters individuals, but highly trained. And they go through that program, and they need somewhere else to go. Well, it may be a good fit for them to get into a regional ICOR program, or they may be where they can go to a national program. They may be suited to go into one of these lab embedded entrepreneurship programs. And of course, there are a lot of different accelerators, there's incubators, there's all kinds of things, right? But to your point, we need to think more in terms of, one, how do I widen the funnel to the program that I'm doing at Jackson State, right? Now, once I get them in, where am I going to pipeline them? I may have a program that's going to last 4 weeks. Okay. But at the end of the 4 weeks, Leroy still needs to go on his journey. Well, maybe Leroy has a program. I make them aware of your program. They come over and get some additional support.
Exactly.
They may go to circuit, right? Getting support, getting better, getting more de-risked, right? And so now they're able to be in the top 5.
Yes. And that and me and you be in that space of understanding that if we make sure that the resources are understood in this region. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
It's easy for us to go, okay, so we got this program here in Jackson, we got this going on down here. Our guys can come up there. Folks coming out of your program may be ready to go into one of our maybe ready to go into one of our incubators. Cool part about that is that we're coastal, third coast. We're focused on everything in this region. So we're looking for founders not only in Louisiana, but also in Mississippi, Alabama, Florida, Texas, Georgia, you know. So hopefully at some point in time, we continue to kind of create this net in this Gulf Coast area and being able to share resources, kind of help our founders kind of just drive their opportunities a little bit more and a little bit more. So tell us a little bit about, we talked about a little bit, the NIH and the NSF stuff. Like, how is the internship programs, or is it funding? How are these programs? Are they helping STEM students? Are they helping founders? Tell me kind of how they work.
First of all, the NIH and I mean, these are national federal agencies, right? And
yeah.
So they have a plethora of programs. So I don't even know about all the different programs. Yeah. But just the ones that I'm talking about, these are programs that, for example, you can engage, just like you and I here, right? You can be trained in your living room, right? Okay. But you still get quality training. You're getting training like folks like myself that are national instructors, okay. Folks that have industry experience. We get industry mentors. I mean, you get all of these resources to kind of help you think through. And really, it's not even consulting; it's really coaching. Okay. It's not trying to get you to tell you what to think, but kind of give you some help with how you might be thinking, mm-hmm. Right? Or are you thinking about the whole thing? And then also it's evidence-based, right? And the evidence comes from the customer discovery, going out and talk to people. So if you're saying something, then how do you know that? Well, because I talked to the customer and this is what they said their process was. This is what they said their pain point was in their process. So, and this is how I identified the problem that they're actually having. I like to ask the question, you know, how many features are on your washing machine, right? I just asked that randomly, and then to drop it in chat. How many features in your washing machine? Yesterday, I got anything between, I think, two features, and somebody had 25. Okay. Then I asked the question, I said, why do you have it? Why do you have a washing machine? Why do you use a washing machine? You may not own it, but why you use it? Every single person says to clean clothes. Mm-hmm. So what does that tell me? That tells me that the benefit of having access to a washing machine is so I can clean my clothes. I may not know how many features. I can tell you I have an LG washing machine. I have no idea how many features on it. Don't care. I use an iPhone. Do I know how many features? No, I don't. But I know why I use it and how it benefits me.
Right. So you say, when you start thinking about how you use it and how it benefits you, is this something where you're thinking that getting more, is it having us understand more how the resources benefit us?
Well, I think that we need to listen. We need to. There's a certain thing that we talk about in Lean Launchpad, which is around value proposition, right? Right. And for those that have resources, the question becomes: does your potential customer understand the value that you bring or the benefit that you bring? So we got to work on that. Yes. Everybody that has something has to work on, is my messaging good enough and in the language of the customer so that they understand the value that I can provide?
Yes.
I don't care what it is. If you can have something that's nice and it's shiny, but if you could be at Walmart, you could be at Louis Vuitton. But if you can explain what it is and how I can use it and what benefit it is, why would I buy it?
That's right.
Even if it's free, right? Why would I use it? I mean, you don't go around just eating stuff that people got on the table. You want to know what it is.
Right.
What does it do?
Right.
It might put you to sleep.
Yeah.
Right. And you don't want to be asleep.
Yeah.
So we have to be able to communicate that to people and make that easier so we can, which also means we have to go out in the community. We have to go out to the universities. We got to go to all the spaces because, we can't just say that. I mean, when I first got out of college and I was working for General Mills, I used to do help with the recruiting. And then folks would say, well, we can't find, African-Americans or Latinx or whatever. Can't find it. And I'm like, well, where'd you look? you go to where the people are, right?
Yeah.
You don't expect them to know where you are, because there's more of them anyway. You're more likely to find them, right? If I live in Texas, if you go through Texas and I'm trying to find cows, right, I'm more likely to find them than one of them find me. It sounds simple, but it's true, right?
Yeah,
so
yeah.
Go to the communities where the people are,
yeah,
and make them aware of what your opportunities and how you can help them to achieve what it is that they're trying to achieve. Because even if you come to my community and you can't tell me that, then why would I stop listening to you in the first place? Second, why would I believe you? And that goes back to, again, you got to build the relationship, build trust, and trust is like I said, the pylons of trust, the bridge of trust is integrity. And then you got to stay there long enough to build a relationship with people. And then when people start seeing that you deliver what you say you're going to deliver, and you support like you say you're going to support, guess what? Then it goes viral, word of mouth. You're not having to go find people. People are finding you.
Yeah. Yeah. I think you're right too, man. Like, the folks, the founders, ones that we're trying to helping out, making sure, hey man, there's no limit to resources. We got to make sure that we're putting the effort into getting out the resources what we need to get out of it. But then also being able to give that what it is and why it's important all the way down. I'll say down across to the folks who are not that tech savvy, across to the folks who may not necessarily, they're not trying to do AI, but understanding what the basic minimum benefit of AI to them is,
right?
How they potentially use it, man. Like I think that, and that kind of is one thing that's been kind of cool here is that the more my friends that learn what I do, they might not necessarily get it from a technical side. That's not what they do. They say, I heard somebody has some kind of project with clean energy. I heard somebody had some kind of project with recycling, and I thought I passed it on you.
They give you referrals.
They give me a referral.
But that's because you have built a relationship with them, right?
Yes.
But I do want to clear up one point, because I think that sometimes folks that are highly technical struggle more than folks that are not in this space, because this is not about whether you can invent something. This is about, can you create something that is an innovation to somebody? There are thousands of inventions that never sold one time. Nobody ever bought one. And, just some of them just on paper, right? They got a patent.
Yeah.
Great. But what is the benefit to society of that existing? Yeah. And I think, but how can you benefit me again if you don't know what problem I'm having or where I need help? Even if you even with charity, right? If you let's just say that Leroy just happened to the goodness of his heart, he goes down to Whole Foods and he buys a big old bag of fresh vegetables and he buys all this fresh meat and he brings it on my house. He didn't even come in, he just rings the doorbell and get in the car because he don't want to, get any kind of notoriety out of it. And then I come outside and I get the bag, and then I go back inside where my electricity is off, and I have nowhere to put this meat or these fruits to keep them, again, because you don't know what my problem is.
Right.
I think a lot of times we spend money and we do stuff, but we're doing it out of ignorance because, and I don't mean that to be callous, but not knowing, if you're ignorant of something, you don't know.
Yeah.
But the way you get to know is get engaged and go and talk to the people, find out what is it that they need. Maybe what I really need is for you to put something on my light bill. So you know what I'm saying? Or maybe I need some canned goods.
Sometimes, sometimes people do things to make them feel good, not so much fix the situation.
Well, that's true. I was in a meeting one time, and the lady said, she asked a question. She says, "How do you know when you're doing too much?" Mm-hmm. I said, no one said anything. Finally, I said, when your actions go beyond your values. Mm-hmm. So again, because if I really care about, let's say I'm serving you a plate of food. If I really care about you, I'm going to present it to you in a certain way. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to slop it up there any kind of way. And, and you're like, what is this? Mm-hmm. I'm going to present it a certain way. I think that you have to really care in this space. You got to care about people. You got to care about helping folks get to the next level, and you got to meet people where they are, right? But you can't have the thought process that they'll always stay there. What I try to do in my work is help people up the S curve, right? Help them to get to where they're trying to get to, and not that I'm so smart. It's not about that at all. It's really about helping them to understand their genius. And that leads to another point. I always talk about this notion that, we look at sports, right? We got Super Bowl coming up. No coach can make you run faster than you run, right? They can't make you catch more balls than you could catch, right? Or kick more. The reality, only thing they can do is make you understand your full potential, right? Because I can't add a different leg on you or a different foot or a different pair of hands. But so I look at coaches as being energy amplifiers. So our role really is to help people to amp up their energy so they can really understand what their full potential and to maximize it, right? I used to say that, I don't want to be 84 years old talking about what I could have done, right? I want all my potential to be spent. I'd love to say I couldn't do another thing. That's it. I'm done. But I think in most cases, you have individuals that they never reach their full potential because we're not helping, right? We're not showing them the step-by-step. And the other thing I should say, all of this work is iterative. What does that mean? It means that I'm not going to have the total solution today. In fact, I may fail today, but I'm failing forward. And I'm getting closer and closer and closer and closer to a solution. The difference is I'm using the input from the customer to help get me there.
We're just trying to get close to getting close to the end. I want to give you an opportunity to kind of give some advice to our ecosystem, but in the same sense, again, when I first started this process, and I hope you guys heard it today, that when I came to him and asked him to help me out, it was the same conversation, list after list after list, all these different organizations, all these different spaces, like things I hadn't even got into, NIH or NSF, and getting on Latane on today. And it was so cool that you came down, bro, because I'm happy that our ecosystem got a chance to kind of see you. And then I'm happy that you got a chance to get that energy. Like whatever I saw you circled up in a corner. So I know they was working you for the information. So it's super important. I just want our guys to know, and even the folks in Mississippi, anything I have, I can help. I definitely will. Jackson State, y'all know, man, if there's anything I can do, I'm more than willing to help. But I like the fact that we have a connection between Mississippi and Louisiana. We have two people who are very focused on making sure that you know what the resources are and make sure that you have some kind of access to the resources. I think both of us have the mindset of nurturing our entrepreneurs, because we understand that all this information hadn't always been there. And it's hard for you to innovate and know everything. So our goal is to try to know as much as we can to help you. And that's coming from Latane, who has Jackson State, who's working with the Jackson State team, me, who I'm working down here in OHub, and there are other folks also are now in our ecosystem as well. Now, as we get ready to close it out, Latane, I want you and take your time. There's no rush on this. I want you to really, what is the inspiring message? Understand, like you keep telling me, it's not lack of resources, it's lack of awareness. What is the message that you want to give to the entrepreneurs that are watching, to people that are thinking about becoming entrepreneurs, or maybe some of the current folks who are already doing things and they're even interested in doing anything with Louisiana or Mississippi and anything down here in this region. And I know you have a national reach too.
Yeah, I would say that first thing I would say is that you have to make impossible obsolete. You know, every now and then you see something. This is the first person that did such and such. The first woman that did this. The first Latinx. Da 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 da. The first man that did this feat or whatever. Once that person does it, guess what? That obstacle is now obsolete, right? Because now somebody has done that. You can be that person. You can absolutely be that person. The other thing I'd say is be daring enough to engage someone about, how you might get help. And it doesn't have to be me, it doesn't have to be Leroy, but we certainly would help, right? And I don't know all the answers. In most cases, guess what I do? I say, you know what? I know somebody that knows that, or I know about a program, and I just connect you with that person. We have to be willing to connect people, to pay it forward. And we can't afford to be gatekeepers. I can't stand in front of the gate and keep you out just because I got in, right? And we got, again, get rid of that lack mentality. Oh, they only have two awards. In most cases, they have hundreds of awards or thousands of awards. So I think for me, be willing to engage, be willing to be vulnerable, right? Yes. And just ask, and then also be willing, on the other side of that, be willing to share with people. And, I came out and had a great time at your event, and I had several folks get on my calendar for 30 minutes. I'm gonna give 30 minutes of my time, and I'm gonna do customer discovery. What I'll be doing that whole time, not talking about I'm this and that and all that, because at the end of the day, my highest titles are Papa, Dad, Honey, Son, Brother, mentor, coach, all that kind of stuff. Those matter. The rest of it don't matter at the end of the day, right? But we gotta be such that we create opportunities for others. And this is about solving problems. This is about wealth creation. This is about creating jobs, workforce development. There's so many positive things, but you have to be willing to take the first step, right? Mm-hmm. Sign up for a program, get on a webinar, right? Go, if you're scared, go with somebody else. But get engaged and know that there are all kinds of resources available. And like I said, if you reach out to me, I guarantee I'll get back with you and try to get you hooked up and connected. But the other thing is really be committed and be real. Be someone that someone can pour into. That someone can pour into. And I just mean by that simply that you're serious. And now, obviously, everybody has a limited amount of time, but I'll give all of my time to help people. Nice. I'll do everything I can do to help you, but fight you.
Yeah. I think that's really important. It's like there are a lot of folks out here that really want to help. There are resources out here that can support the growth and development of it. There's some things that 100% that Latane has a lot of information on. And like you said, if he don't have the information, then he's going to point you in the direction of someone who does. And most of the time won't be long before you get an email from him, say, hey, you need to connect with this person right here. Hey man, big thanks for sending some amazing founders into our ecosystem. Shout out to Gizmo and that team who came down with the portable electronic appliance, right? Their solar concept. Also to Dr. Medina too, man. Like,
oh yeah, Victor. Yes.
Yes. Had really enjoyed just walking him through his process and kind of talking about some of the projects that he's working on. So big thanks for that. I definitely want to commit to getting Jackson State as soon as I have an opportunity to, and maybe we can, maybe I can help interject something on that side, man, because you're giving so much to us on this side. So Thank you so much for being here with us, man. We really appreciate you.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure, Leroy. Like I said, any way I can support, you know that it's been you've been a blessing to me as well, because for example, Victor, you know, he had an opportunity, came through and then he's over there. We're excited. We champion that. You know, we brag about the fact that he's in programs there. So we're not trying to hold people back or keep them from being successful. We're trying to give them a pathway to success. And so I appreciate you being a partner. And like I said, it was good I told the folks, I didn't even tell you I was coming. I just showed up.
Hey, man, I appreciate that. You in this community, man, you always have it's always an open door. We love to have you. You probably, now you got more friends down here anyway, because you got so many people. So definitely come back and see us, man. Really appreciate you. You guys for tuning in. We thank you and we appreciate you, man. Y'all have a good week.
Take care.